Thank you so much to everyone who is here today. So this is our very first webinar to kick off our webinar series here at the State Department of Education. Today we're going to be talking about the topic revising your gifted education plan. For those of you that came along, welcome to everybody. For those of you that are watching this, thank you so much for clicking on the video. We will be recording this. It'll be housed on our State Department of Education website, so it'll be there for posterity, and that way you can go back and reference it afterwards. My name is Robin Glinsman. I am the Director of Gifted and Talented and Advanced Placement here at the State Department of Education. On the screen, you can see my contact information. So after this webinar, if you have any further questions, you are more than welcome to reach out. There is my office phone number and my cell phone number. There's also my email address. And my Twitter handle. We are very active on social media here at the State Department of Education, from Superintendent Hoffmeister all the way down. So we love to share the great things happening out there. So always feel free to give me a follow or to share out the things you're doing. At the bottom, what you will find is a link to today's presentation. So you are more than welcome to write down that bit.ly address and follow along, or you'll be able to access it after this presentation so that you can see the slides, the information that is in there. A quick reminder, everything that is underlined in today's presentation is a live link, so you'll be able to access many documents and materials through that bit.ly address, so that's a great thing. We'll pull it up again at the end, so in case you don't get it written down right now or get a picture snapped of it, you'll be able to access that at the end. Two other people that I want to make sure that you know about who are important people of our GT team, Theresa Ballin and Christy Cox. These are our two GT specialists that work with me for the Javits grant that we have going on, and could not do what I do without them. So if you see them out and about, make sure you say hello and thank them for all their hard work. So we have four main goals that we're going to go over today. We're going to do a quick review of the gifted education laws that we must follow in the state of Oklahoma. Then we're going to review the requirements for your gifted education plan. We're also going to hear from other districts that have already updated their plan this year, so you can hear their philosophy, the way they went about getting changes done, and some tips and tricks from them. And then we're going to close out today on how to stay connected within the gifted world. So there are a few laws that are put in place that say what we have to do for a gifted education plan. And so it says that every district shall submit a plan. So your district will have one for the entire district. This encompasses PK through 12 or PK through 8, depending upon your district. And the very first thing that your plan must have is a process for selecting and assessing your GT students for placement. So a district gets to decide how you want to select students and what assessment you will use. This selection process also includes a matrix that you could do, so that's a category 2 or a category 1, which is the assessment you will use. And then once you have selected your students, you must also have a curriculum. And so you must have a description of that curriculum that is being used inside of your gifted education plan. And this is a curriculum or the courses that you are going to offer for those students, PK through 12. So you have to detail that. You also need to talk about a criteria for the evaluation of your GT program. So how are you knowing that your program is successful? What are you doing on a yearly basis to make sure that you're meeting the needs of your gifted students, that your gifted families are satisfied with the services their students are receiving, and how are you training your teachers to make sure that they are trained? All of that has to be in your plan. You also need to have evidence of participation by your local advisory committee. Every district must have a local advisory committee that meets. This is a small group of individuals, usually between 10 to 13, that will meet a couple of times during the year. There are a couple of dates that you need to remember as you think about this local advisory committee, or you may see it referred to as the LAC. Your local advisory committee must be in place by September 15th of every year, which means your participants need to be put in place. Your participants can serve a multi-year term, so that way you're not changing participants every year. These participants need to be stakeholders that represent a large variety of everyone who's involved in your gifted program. So you need to have administrators, teachers, parents, community members, and possibly even students. So you have a great variety of all of those that participate. This local advisory committee must be in place, like I said, by September 15th, and they must meet by October 1st of every year. This first meeting is a great way to get them started for the year, talk about your budget for the year. They also should meet another time throughout the year, maybe towards the end of the year or right about now. This would be a great time to start creating an evaluation that you could give that must be in your plan. So that local advisory committee is really a great group to help you out in this. Also in your plan, you need to talk about the duties of your GT staff. So what are they going to be expected to do? This would be the teachers that are serving. This would be administrators that might be serving that are helping out with assessments. This would also be your committee that's helping determine placement. Duties also entails how are they being trained every year. So what training and professional development are you providing, or are you sending your GT staff to? And lastly, you must have a budget for your district GT program. This budget every year is done by October 15th and submitted in your district's gifted plan that comes through single sign-on to me. So these 6 components here must be in every gifted education plan. And at the bottom there, I've referenced the state statute that says that. Another thing that I need to remind you is I cannot say it enough, but your district must have a GEP. That gifted education plan is a requirement by state law, and that plan should be updated every 2 to 3 years. We need it to be current so that you're using the best practices for serving your students, that we're thinking about the best ways to train our teachers, and the best use of our money. We also need to make sure that the LAC does have an active role in this gifted education plan creation, or other stakeholders. So those stakeholders could involve other parents, not on the LAC, all of your gifted teachers that you serve, and even the students. Students sometimes say it best than any others, so I'd love to hear their advice and what they would say. So once you do decide that you're going to update your gifted education plan, there are a few steps you need to follow after the updates have been made. So the first thing that you need to do after your updates have happened is that you need to send me a copy of your district plan. The State Department of Education keeps a copy of every district's plan on file, so we need to have a copy of it. What I am going to do is I'm going to use what we call a GEP checklist. I've linked it right here in the presentation. There's also a copy of this checklist on the Gifted and Talented page on the State Department of Education. But this checklist goes through all of the requirements, the 6 previous ones listed, and it details a lot more to walk you through step by step what should be in your plan. I will read your plan front to back using this checklist. And then what I will do at this point is one of 2 things. I will either get in touch with you of the things that your plan is lacking. There may be a few things that just were overlooked. There may be a few things that just slipped through. And so I'm going to call you or email you and have a conversation. And we're going to talk about the few things that are missing out of your plan and the best place to put those in your plan. And then you'll just submit it back to me. We'll start back at step 1 and we'll go through that process again. If we get to the end of step 2 and everything on the checklist has been checked and your district plan is good to go, then I will go into single sign-on and update that your plan has been updated. We keep a list in single sign-on that is also reflected on your yearly gifted education plan. I will also send you an official letter that'll go to you, the GT coordinator, and to your superintendent to let you know that your plan has been updated. Then at that time, what needs to happen is that you need to take your newly approved plan to your Board of Education. Your Board of Education must approve your plan, and we suggest that they approve it after the State Department does. Because if number 4 is done first and the plan gets here to the State Department and there are some things missing or some revisions that have to happen, and we have to go through steps 1 or 2 multiple times, you then have to resubmit to your Board of Education. They must approve the most recent plan. So we suggest that this step-by-step process happen from 1 to 4 and in that order to make it be best for what your district needs, and it saves steps in the process of having to redo things and have some redundancy. So now that you know what has to be in your plan, what are the steps that should be gone through to approve your plan? So we can think all day of how we can do it, but it might be a very overwhelming task if you work in a big district or if you're in a district by yourself. So who better to hear from than others out there in the district just like you who have already made changes this year. So this year alone, 37 school districts have already updated their gifted education plan. I just sent a letter out yesterday to a school here in Oklahoma County that took care of that. Sometimes we have very small revisions that need to happen, and when we're updating it every 2 to 3 years, these changes do become smaller and smaller. So sometimes we need to update course names. Many people right now are taking off the pre-AP name from some of their middle school and high school courses, and they're changing it to honors or an enrichment. Sometimes we change grade levels. So if you decide that you're now going to start serving second graders, or we're going to change the grade levels that get in a pull-out program or something like that, those are very small changes, and those are a simple word change. Or we may change the assessment we're using. So we may be moving from one assessment to the other. These are small changes that are just simply go in, make those changes, but they still have to go through the same process of coming to the State Department and getting approved. Now, sometimes we have large changes that happen in a district. So if you're a district who hasn't made changes in 5 or 10 years, you may need to truly change the type of services. Maybe you're changing from a push-in and enrichment to a pull-out program. Or maybe you're adding in some electives that could be added. Maybe you're making a complete change in your curriculum. Or maybe you've decided that your Category 2 students, that matrix needs to be revised, updated, or even better, you're creating a whole new matrix to qualify students. Any of these large revisions also go through the same process. That is what is super about changing it every 2 to 3 years, is that you can make these changes along the way, getting the feedback from your participants and stakeholders to hear what is best to serve the needs of our students. So what I want to do now is we're going to take some time to hear what some districts have done. And we're going to start with Jenny Jasper. Jenny is the District Gifted Education Coordinator for Shawnee Public Schools. And Shawnee started off the beginning of this year working and made some changes. So Jenny, could you take a few moments to walk us through what you guys did and maybe some tips to others who are thinking of this process?
Sure, Robin. Well, like she said, I'm Jenny Jasper, and I'm with Shawnee Public Schools. And I was totally new to the position this year. So I don't know if any of you guys are out there that are totally new, but hopefully this will be helpful to you. So the first thing that I did was I actually started, I went and saw all my GT teachers individually, and I just talked to them about what they'd done in the past for GT students, because I felt like they're working with our GT kids specifically, so I wanted to get their opinion. What have you done in the past, and what do you feel like we need to do going forward in the future? So I had conversations with them. I also had conversations with individuals on my local advisory committee, just asking them questions. What have you done before? Where do you want to see this go? And really trying to get a vision for what we want to do in the future. And then we had, I think, 2 local advisory committee meetings before I started reworking our gifted education plan. And so I just talked to them and I got ideas for them because we didn't really have a vision or goals for our program in our last gifted education plan. So that was something that I really wanted to get updated this year. I wanted us to have a vision. I wanted us to have goals, kind of a philosophy for what we were wanting to do. And so those are some of the big things that I just talked to them about, and I got their opinion. And then I started drafting a new gifted education plan based on those conversations. One of the things, I also sent out a Google form, just asking questions about what our teachers and our committee members felt like students ought to be doing, what activities they should be doing, and collected information using Google Forms. And I would say one thing that, if I were going to advise you, that I would say is talk to us, like talk to me, talk to Brandy, Libby, Stephanie, Robin, and get other gifted education plans, and look at them and see what they have in their plan, because sometimes that kind of helps give you a starting point. So I would definitely say reach out and ask questions, because that's going to be really helpful to you, and get a copy of other district education plans and kind of see what works for your district that other districts are doing, and build on the ideas from other districts. So that is one piece of advice. Another piece of advice is it's hard to get everybody all in the same room because schedules are so busy, but you want to have a representative from every site. Like, you want to have elementary representatives, you want to have middle school representatives, high school representatives. And so kind of in order to do that, I would use a site called Doodle, Doodle. And so you can send out a survey to see when's good for everybody to meet. So you can put a couple dates on there, and you can see how people vote, and that kind of helps getting your meeting set up, because that was a struggle, being able to get everybody to all come together on one day so that we can talk about it as a group. So I recommend that. And once again, I recommend Google Forms. But then I kind of got sidetracked. Once I got everybody's ideas all together, I put them together. I consolidated them. I started drafting a new gifted education plan. And in that second local advisory committee meeting, I kind of showed everybody what we had and asked them if there was anything they wanted to take out or anything that they wanted to add to it. And then I sent it off to Robin to get her feedback. And I think there were a couple things she sent back that we changed, or they were really small. And that's how we did it. So another piece of advice that I have for you here is start small, and then once again, just reach out if you have questions. So thank you. Is that good, Robin?
Schools. And
Sorry, we weren't hearing that.
oh, you didn't hear me there?
No, sorry.
Oh, I pushed the wrong button, guys. This is why we have Gary, that I'm so thankful. Gary keeps us in line. So I'm going to try to repeat what I just said. So Jenny, thank you so much for sharing with us. I love what Jenny mentioned about all levels. You need to remember that a gifted education program is a PK through 12, and we serve all of those students. So she talked about having all levels represented, and that is a great idea. She also talked about asking other districts, and we are a very welcoming and loving community within the gifted across Oklahoma. So reach out to others, see what they're doing, ask questions. They've done this before. If they haven't, they have the exact same questions you have. So make sure you reach out and ask them. Next, I'd like to bring on Stephanie Heim. Stephanie is the Director of Elementary Curriculum and Instruction, GT, EL, whatever title we want to give her today, with Clinton Public Schools. And they also just revised their plan. So Stephanie, what can you tell us about your plan?
Thank you, Robin. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, I couldn't hear you at the very beginning, so I'm glad I'm back.
So I just wanted to share our process of how we went about revising our plan. Um, so our plan was actually 10 years old, and I've had this job for 3 years and had never seen the plan. So last summer during Engage, I went to one of Robin's sessions, and she discussed, school districts revising their plan. So I already have it in my mind, and so I contacted her in the fall and said, we can't find our plan anywhere, and don't you know the State Department still had it, and it was 10 years old, so when I got it, it was even like typewritten. I was like, where did this come from? The dinosaur ages. So I started looking through it, marking through things that we no longer had, kind of making notations in the borders and the margins, and then I scanned all of that in and sent it to our local advisory committee, which is made up of all stakeholders. We have parents, we have community members, we have someone from every building, we have administrators, we have teachers, and our gifted and talented instructors also. So I sent that to them with the checklist, and I asked them to please look over it. I think I gave them like a week. I said, please look over the plan, check it for strengths, weaknesses, additions, corrections, and make sure that it aligns with the checklist. And so like a week later, we had that meeting, and they all came. They all did their homework, and I actually could just feel the frustration as they were all talking, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to go through it. Let's go a page at a time. Let's slow down. I had a document I was typing on. That was kind of overwhelming for me because I was the one taking notes on what needed to be changed. So, but the process itself was good because even everyone on the committee was, so excited that we were actually updating this and that they really had more knowledge on what our gifted and talented program looked like at Clinton and what it should look like. So then from there, I took that plan back. I made the additions, corrections as directed by the committee. Then I sent the final revised plan to the committee again, got feedback from all of them. I think at that point there might have been just a few grammatical errors then that I needed to change. Got that corrected. So that whole process from the time I started that, it took several months really for me to look over the plan, then for the committee to have time to look over it, for us to meet, for me to make the corrections, and then I finally got to send it to Robin. It was approved, and I was so happy, and then sent it over to our superintendent to be approved by the local school board. In the process of all of that, I felt like, I'm just so glad that I included so many different people, and they had different ideas. In other words, it wasn't just me writing it. And when I had the meeting with everyone that day, I tried not to insert how I wanted it to look, what I envisioned it to look like, because I wanted it to be the whole committee so that everyone had ownership in this, and hopefully GT will be fabulous in Clinton and we'll all stick to the plan. So that's really it in a nutshell.
Excellent, Stephanie. Stephanie, I love her transparency that it has been a while since Clinton Public Schools had updated their plans. So if you get through this process and you pull that plan out or you can't find a plan, that's why I'm here to help you. And Stephanie reached out. I sent her a copy, dusted off the dinosaur cobwebs that were on there, like she mentioned, and sent it out, and we got started. So don't get frustrated if it's been 5, 10, or even 15 years. Now is a great time to get started. And Stephanie also talked about having to use a Google document or things to keep the process moving so it was collaborative. So I love that she shared those are great resources and ways to keep everyone connected, because you will have a lot of stakeholders going at one time. So that is a great idea of keeping those started. So thank you, Stephanie, so much for sharing with us. The next person I want to let you guys hear from is Libby Osborne. And Libby is one of the gifted education coordinators for Tahlequah Public Schools. And Tahlequah, the very beginning of the year, tackled this. And so I want Libby to be able to share a few things that they've done as they have changed their plan. They're a frequent modifier. They look over it very regularly. So, Libby, would you like to share with us a few things that you guys use?
Well, greetings from beautiful Tahlequah. We're glad to be here today. Yes, we do. We are frequent revisers on our plan. We look at that every year, and the way that we start off is we have a very small, gifted, dedicated, gifted personnel. There's myself and one other person, but we look at it every year, and we go over the plan. And what has really helped us just in the past couple of years is the GT District Coordinators Guide that's now available on the State Department of Education website. And so we look at that, we compare things just to make sure that we're good with that information, that we're following everything and doing what we should do. So we look over there, we see anything that needs to be modified, deleted, updated. So once we have done that, then we send those revisions out to our local advisory committee just in we're not using a Google Doc right now. We probably will next year because our plan it's done in Word right now. But we send that out and tell them, you know, and it shows what revisions we've made, why we think that these need to be made, and then also ask them to make any revisions that they think need to be done and be prepared to discuss that at our first committee meeting. And so they kind of have a heads up before we come to that committee meeting. Then at our committee meeting, we look over all those things. We talk about it. We, you know, tell them new things that we're adding or, you know, get advice of things that they think should be added. Also this year we did a teacher needs assessment before our meeting so we could kind of tell what the teachers thought that they needed, and that was sent out to all of our teachers. So when we got, you know, the responses back from that, then we looked to see where or if there was anything then that we could put in from that. Let me see here. We also inform our, so after we did that, let me back up here just a minute. So after our advisory committee does that, then we, of course, present it to our superintendent. We do have administrators on our local advisory committee, and then we present it to him and, you know, just for his thoughts. Then we send it to Robin, have her look it over, and then she does that. Then we take it in front of our board and present it there and explain to them again. Actually, I send it out to them in that form again and show them so they can compare what it did say and what it's saying and the reasons why we're making these changes. And our stakeholders, as far as that, we keep them informed, like our parents. We've got our gifted plan on our website, so they can go in there and look. We do a parent survey as well, and then through social media, through emails, anything like that. We also have parents, of course, on our local advisory committee. Let me see here. It's just a tip that, you know, that we would give, or something that's really helped me, is just, like say, that district coordinator's guide, I think, is great for ideas or updates or, you know, are we in compliance? There's that gifted education checklist. And I'd also suggest just looking at gifted plans from several different schools, and it doesn't even have to be in our state. You can look, you know, at other states too, just to see what they do and get ideas, and also network with people. Just like I think it was Jenny had said it a while ago, just network with all these personnel, you know, GT personnel at different events. We attend a consortium a couple of times a year, and so that's really good. I've just learned, you know, lots and lots and lots of things. They're always so helpful. And then, you know, the state conference, we just had that. So if you have any questions, you know, like I say, you can reach out to us and then, you know, reach out to other people. Hey, what are you doing in your district? You know, how can I do this? Help me out here. And I've never had anyone, you know, refuse. They were just so generous and giving, and I really appreciate that and feel blessed to work in this area. And I think that's about it for me. Anything else?
Libby, I think you did great, and I love that Libby brought up the district coordinator's guide. That is a link that you can find on our state website. But this is a handbook that's been put together for district coordinators, teachers, and those that are just curious. And so it's a one-stop shop of information that you can have. There are other forms you can look at. There's examples of things. So I'm glad she brought that up. It's something that we do update every year. So at the beginning of the school year, there'll be a new version out, and we keep those live. They're on our State Department website right by the gifted education checklist that she talked about. She also mentioned that we just did have our state conference. So OAGCT, the Oklahoma Association of Gifted and Talented and Creative, just had their conference in February. So it is a great time to network with others. We will be having Engage OK on the road, 2nd and 3rd week of July coming up. So we will be traveling to 5 cities across the state, and there will be at least 3 gifted sessions that'll be presented there. So I can't wait to see you there. We will also be doing regional meetings again for the next school year in the fall and spring. So we will have plenty of opportunities for you to network, to learn from each other, and meet. So Libby, thank you for sharing those ideas. And we have one more person online, and Brandy, it's not coming up on this screen because I haven't refreshed it. Brandy's notes will be on the PowerPoint, but Brandy is the district gifted coordinator in Putnam City, and Brandy's plan came to me and was a unique picture of a whole district plan that really thought about it. So I wanted Brandy to be on today to talk about some of the things that she did as she led Putnam City through the revision of their gifted education plan.
Can everyone hear me?
We can, Brandy.
Okay, good. I was worried about this headset. Okay, well, thank you. And like she said, my name is Brandy Fitz, and I work for Putnam City Schools. And so that creates a unique challenge because our district is huge, 19,500 students. And with the way we identify, we have a lot of district support. So at any given time, we could have, give or take, 3,000 identified gifted children. As I looked at the plan that my predecessor had put together, which was very comprehensive, I was lucky to be going through coursework on program creation, gifted identification, and other areas through UCO. So the first thing we did was I looked for any kind of vision or mission statement that we had for gifted education in Putnam City. And we didn't really have a clear picture of an end goal. Like, what do we want to be able to walk these kids through, and where do we want to take them? So the first thing I would say is think about what that vision and mission would look like in your district. What is your student population? What are their needs personally? What are their challenges? Depending on the socioeconomic status, the access of your kids, these are all going to be things to consider as you're introducing and exposing them to different types of curriculum to increase their opportunities later. So we revised our vision and mission. I did that collaboratively with gifted teachers. I have a large number of gifted teachers, so we kind of built a smaller committee, and we did that and took that to the local advisory committee where we edited and changed. Everything was kind of a cycle between the LAC, the gifted teachers, kind of trying to get everyone together at meetings. I think we had 4 meetings that I discussed this at. One of those might have been an email together. And then taking all those revisions with any evidence that I had found to support, well, with all the evidence I had found to support any changes to our academic team that consists of all of our directors of education and superintendents. Thinking about our population, we had a high diversity, and we also seek to identify for divergent talent. So we've got to make sure that we know what options we have for our programming. If you're going to identify a student for gifted, you're going to serve that student. So it doesn't make sense to do those things separately. They need to be done and thought of at the same time. If I'm identifying a kid for instrumental music, what programming options do I have to support that child all the way through their education? Know what do the schedules look like at your site? What does your staffing look like? What does your district support financially and with administrators look like? we're identifying and serving pre-K through 12. We're assessing students through mass census testing 2nd through 8th every year. But if I wasn't prepared, if I didn't work with my teachers to know what their ability levels were, know what kind of training they needed, then we wouldn't be able to serve those creative kids or those 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds in our gifted pull-out courses. Every time you're thinking about a change, do your research. Pull articles, look at other states. I concur completely with talking to other gifted coordinators. I even spoke with some gifted coordinators in Texas. I went through a variety of states, went through Colorado's statewide plan, so that way I could align with best practices. Look at national programming suggestions and make sure that you're doing what you can as long as it's sustainable and attainable. We always have to remember that what we put in our plan is our law. That's what we're going to follow. So if I put in something that my pre-K students would receive 3 hours of pull-out service per week, but I haven't made sure that that schedule works because I haven't spent time with my stakeholders, I don't know my district, I don't know my demographics, then I'm not going to be able to achieve what I've said is our goal. And also check and make sure that things are sustainable. If you're writing in certain types of professional development for your teachers, if you're writing in specific programming options, are those going to be something that you can continue to offer until the next time you revise your plan? Don't put yourself in a hole where you've written something down in your plan, you've got it all completely approved, it's what you're following, and now realize that it's just not even feasible. I also think it's very important to have lots of hands in the pot once you've kind of got it all together. It's going to take the coordinator or a small team of people to kind of line all of that out so that way the document's organized, that way it reads consistently in one voice and is written in a way that parents can access and understand it. But I also think it's really important to share that with other people, even people outside of GT, because those are your parents. Your parents may not understand all of the academic language that you've put forward, so sharing it with a variety of stakeholders will help you identify any areas where you just weren't clear enough on saying what your activities and expectations were going to be in the district. Yeah, and so once I put all of ours together, we went through final LAC meetings. I sent it to Robin, and lo and behold, I had a couple errors. So I went back and was able to correct those because she has a great eye for that, and took it back to the LAC to make sure that they were absolutely ready for that document to be sent to the board, sent it on, and got it finalized. I don't know, anything else, Robin?
Brandy, what I really love that you talked about is to know your population, know the students that you are serving, and make sure every teacher is involved. Brandy talked about inviting the regular classroom teachers, not just the GT teachers in, because you need to remember these students are gifted 100% of the time, not just when they're being served by the GT teacher or where they're in that art class or those other programs. So make sure that everyone is around. And I love what she said, it needs to be sustainable and attainable. When you put it in that plan, you are saying to your stakeholders in your community, this is what we will do. So you need to make sure that you have things in there that you can do and you can sustain for multiple years. And the last tip she gave was make it easy to read by the parents. You want your parents to be active participants in your gifted program, and so you want to make sure that they understand the plan and they understand how their students are going to be served. So Brandy, thank you so much for sharing with us. Okay, there we go. So a couple of teachers could not be with us today, so I wanted to make sure and share their tools with you. Taylor Richardson is the gifted education teacher in Guyman Public Schools, and she said that when they started looking at their current plan, they reached out to 3 other districts, one that looked a lot like them and 2 others that were very different, and they wanted to see how others served themselves, and so they reached out to those and pulled them in. It's something that the teachers could understand and implement, and they wanted every teacher's feedback. So they reached out to all of their teachers, what would be attainable in your classroom, and what would be attainable when the students left and went to Taylor's classroom. This year, Guyman really focused on placing students and making sure they had the correct forms to do that. So they revised their matrix so that they had an area for students who were artistically gifted, had leadership and creativity. So they made sure that no matter how the matrix was being used, that it was allowing all students to be identified. They also added a very unique piece in this year where they added in PLC, where the classroom teachers and the GT teachers could work together. So Taylor's constantly keeping updated on what's happening in the classroom, and they're informing her so that she can adjust her classroom instruction when the students get pulled out for GT. So those are some things that Guyman Public Schools did. And also Amy Wingard with Yukon Public Schools, they worked on revising their plan this year. They put an advisory board together so that they would know the upcoming changes. So this is their LAC coming together. But before that, district-wide came together, they actually formed a committee at every site. So each one of their buildings talked about what needed to happen at their site. So it was site-specific. Then all of those schools' plans came together so the LAC could look at all of those and make sure every building was represented in that district plan. That is so important in a large district, is that what is in that plan is attainable by every building in that district. They submitted their final plan to us. Again, there were a few things that I suggested to them. I sent it back. Amy reworked a few pieces, and then it came over back again. And then she talked about that it went to their local school board. And she actually put it in here. It was suggested that we do the school board last. Again, because in case you need to make some changes, you don't want to have to go to your Board of Education. She says on here that having feedback was eye-opening because it provided a lot of information on misconceptions and practices. There are many times that the regular classroom teacher who may not be as trained and gifted practices that they do have misconceptions or they have the wrong idea about serving our gifted students. So it's a really great idea of inviting everyone to be a part of and listening to all points of view. So in conclusion, from what we've heard from our guest speakers and from others, that the plan can be a little scary at first, but take it slowly, take it step by step, involve multiple stakeholders, think about your process, and ask others for help. Everyone is more than willing to share their plan, share the steps that they went through. At the State Department, I am very happy to help you walk through. But just a reminder is that updating our GEP should be done every 2 to 3 years to make sure that our plan is attainable and that we're able to sustain and that we're doing what is best for our students. Involve your LAC and other important stakeholders and make sure that when those changes happen, that they come to the State Department of Education so we can make sure that they follow all the guidelines. There's a few ways that we can stay connected. So it's been great having almost 50 of us online today sharing, but what can we do in the next month or in the next few months? So every month I send out a gifted newsletter that has tips in it, has ideas, has upcoming professional developments. Make sure you're signed up for that newsletter. If you don't get that newsletter, you can click on that underlined newsletter right there and it'll take you right to the OSDE website and you can sign up for it. We also have a Facebook group called Oklahoma Gifted and Talented Education. It is a great place where there's almost 100 people in there sharing ideas, asking questions, getting connected. It makes our great state of Oklahoma seem not so large when one platform of social media can connect us. If you are using social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, make sure you use the hashtag OKGT. That way we can stay connected. You have an easy way to search for things. And then we've been updating the Gifted and Talented website on the OSDE with lots of new information, resources. That's also where you'll be able to find the link to this presentation in just a couple of days. So I hope you have found today to be useful to get your mind thinking about the final steps that'll push you on your way to revising your gifted education plan. Do not forget, we have 2 more webinars upcoming. Next month, we'll be talking about your district testing protocol. So how are you assessing your students and identifying them? Are you using an assessment? Are you using a matrix? Or a combination of the two? So we're going to talk about maybe revising or thinking about that. And then in May, we're going to come together and talk about preparing your gifted expenditure report. This is the last step that needs to happen so that you can close your books out for the year and you can get started in August. Further information can be found on our website. And do remember that everything that has been underlined in today's presentation is a direct link. So you will want to go to the bit.ly at the bottom here so that you can access that presentation. I will also be sending a follow-up email to those of you that were here today, and that will have the presentation and a few of the links that our presenters talked about. So we have a couple of minutes here before we close off for the day. If any of you have any questions, I would love to take those questions now. You will need to make sure and unmute yourself so that we can hear you. But if you have any questions, I'd love to be able to answer those right now. Oh, they can't. Here. Never mind. You've got to write those in the chat box. Thanks to our wonderful Gary. He's reminding me of these. So for those of you that are watching this as a recorded webinar and don't have a chat box to type in, you're looking at my email address. So please feel free to send me an email at any time with questions that you might have. Also, always feel free to pick up the phone and just give me a call on my office number or call or text anytime on my cell phone number. I would be happy to answer any questions you have. And seeing that we don't have any in the chat box today, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming, sharing your after school. I hope that you have a wonderful evening. You get warm out there with this weather that we have. And thanks again, and we'll see everyone soon.